Executive Chairman of the Center for Environment and Health Research Training, and Executive Director of Green Advocacy Ghana, an internationally acclaimed authority in environmental impact assessment. He's a former president of the International Association for Impact Assessment and the 2024 recipient of its prestigious Lifetime Achievement Award. In warmly welcoming the author of The Last Dig, How Benji Changed the Galamsey Story. Let's bring on to the stage the author to share his reflections. Siyao, Amoyao, Osei.
Thank you very much. Prof. Chairman, reviewer, and a special guest of honor, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my ministers, my friends, and my colleagues.
And thank you, Mr. Interim Chairman. While you were speaking, I said to myself, why don't I put this thing away and then just continue from where you left off. I made a presentation on the application of SEA. SEA is Strategic Environmental Assessment, and we'll be doing a little exercise on SEA. Don't take it too far. SCA, Strategic Environmental Assessment, is with us. You come to understand it very well from this meeting, and because that forms the foundation of the book. Now, the presentation I made at the international conference just recently was on the theme, communicating environmental governance through storytelling, turning Ghana's illegal mining crisis into a human story, reimagining the SEA report as a gripping national drama, the story behind the gold, the last dig. Surprisingly, this was acclaimed as the first technical SEA report to be translated into a story format. And a story format, or a story that resonates with the public, with policymakers, with SEA professionals, as well as other technical audiences. And it was thought of as a novel, groundbreaking exercise that potentially challenges other professionals to follow suit. And here, let me break from here and say something. You know the floods that are happening now?
Because we have spent so much money. I don't know how many of us are aware of the Garrett project, the Greater Accra Resilience and Integrated Development Project. And the funding of this, and I have some of my World Bank friends here, the funding was mainly targeted at flood mitigation. And this has been on for how many years? So the question is, so what has happened? What happened? And the sad part is that most of us are not aware of this. But if the reports, the environmental assessment reports that were conducted were translated into story formats, we will all be able to read, and we will then be able to challenge those in authority about doing something about flooding in Accra.
We will all be able to read, and we will then be able to challenge those in authority about doing something about flooding in Accra. So I see this as no doubt others called it a novel, groundbreaking exercise that potentially challenges other professionals to also follow suit. So we have broken the grounds. We have translated a SEA report into a story format. Now, a little exercise. SEA, or Strategic Environmental Assessment, the World Bank calls it Strategic Environmental and Social Assessment. I describe it as a tool, or one of the tools in the toolkit of impact assessment or environmental assessment. And this set of tools are globally applicable. Every country, most countries of the world have their laws, their impact assessment laws. Ghana has it. If the African Development Bank, the World Bank, or any of these international banks will give your country any money, you have to comply with the requirements of the environmental assessment system, because they want to ensure that the funding they're giving to you will be used to the maximum benefit of society, not to invest in a project that would have some negative outcomes that may even negate the potential benefits to be derived from the project. So that is it. That's the benefits of environmental assessment or impact assessment. There are types of these assessments. There's the one which we're very familiar with, environmental impact assessment. And this is usually for projects. But we also have the type that is for policies, for programs, and for plans, for strategies, and the like. And this is where strategic environmental assessment comes in, SEA. Now, Ghana's formal environmental assessment system dates to the 1990s and recently amended. The question now is, how come we have such laws, but top national policies like the free SHS, like the 24-hour economy, like even the recent Okada bill, and of course, even more recent, EPA's announcement to ban polystyrene foam products effective 1st January 2027. But all this did not benefit from SEA. So what do you expect? What do you think? What do you think? And the question again is, what institutional gaps allowed the need for SEA in galamsey formalization to surface only after a development partner intervened? And why are others not even complying at all? If we do not comply, or if we comply just because a development partner has some funds for it to be carried out, and we are not ready to implement them, then we must expect, for instance, the flooding situation we are experiencing. It's our own making. It's our own making. For illustrative purposes, this is for our students and our professionals in impact assessment. You know, I use this illustration, and it's a very simple one. You know, when you pass white light through a prism, it refracts, you know, it disperses, into the various colors. We know about that. I use the same analogy here. That if you have, say, through what I call SEA prism, you have the drivers of galamsey, you have the effects of galamsey, and you have the potential pathways. Yeah. So with this, it became obvious. The drivers, and the drivers, we know most of them, and you can read about in the book. The effects are more even common to us because we are experiencing them. This is another version of the analytical prism. When you see some of the effects listed there, the drivers' effects, and then the intervention pathways. Fortunately or unfortunately, this book emphasizes more on the intervention pathways, because for the effects and others, we know them. We know them, but how to get out of them. So the other deeper, deeper grasp of the issues revealed book include, number one, the global, apart from the drivers and the interventions, global appetite for gold and the increasingly soaring price of gold in the international world, in the world market is the underlying cause of galamsey boom. That's it. And you see, this is beyond our control. Because if I were to ask right now, who wants the price of gold to go down? Here. I won't get anybody to say that. The government will not say that. We want the price of gold to continue to soar. But the higher it goes, the more dangerous it becomes. Because even areas, we have 3 regions that have no footprint, galamsey footprint in this country. And I tell you, in the gold price, you can see from the graph, as at 2020, 2024, an ounce of gold was around $2,000. And you know, an ounce of gold is like our normal blade, just that small thing. 2,000. Now, between last 2 years and 2000 and early this year, it shot to about $4,000. And then by February, March, it had gone up to $5,000. And then thank God, it's now stabilized or declining. And if you want to follow, you want to draw a graph of galamsey, follows the same pattern. Now, so this is one thing we must understand. Our government needs money. We need more gold. But that means we need more galamsey. Now, framing galamsey as a monolithic problem that requires a one-stroke remedy reflects a profound misreading of the complexity of galamsey. We don't understand it. And so we think galamsey is one. Galamsey is not one. At least in this book, we distinguish between 2 types of galamsey. We don't need to go into those details. I'll leave that to the reviewer. But you see, that is one of the reasons why our fight against galamsey is not working, because we haven't even given a clearer definition to it. Now, we also stage galamsey response exclusively at the national level. And that is one of the failures of our galamsey fight. Galamsey is down there like the poetry, recital said. You see, we cannot be blind to the covert roles of chiefs, of district assemblies, of the police. we cannot be blind to them. So our national effort at fighting galamsey is only cosmetic. We are only touching just the tip. Now, SCA, and this is my challenge where we get into. SCA, like any impact assessment document, is said to be a product, a public domain product. It means that it's for everyone. It's for everyone. Nevertheless, they are the proponent's own. They are for the proponent, the person or the company that commissions it, but not for the consultant who conducted the research. See, so without the approval of the proponent or the funding institution, you cannot disseminate its content. Now, I had a challenge because I was privileged to have conducted this SCA, and I know it's not being implemented. But I know that that is the way out. So what do? Do I sit and shut up? After all, you've been paid for the exercise, for the work you did. Or become what we call too knowing and recast the SCA report into a narrative using maybe fictional or semi-fictional elements. I chose the latter. And you can imagine the risk one is taking. In fact, I was warned by some colleagues that where I was going, but I thought that's the service I can do to Mother Ghana. So I created an imaginary country called Hanang. So you will see in the report, Hanang is transposition of, and then altered the names of our rivers, and so you see Ankobra is Ankoba, and so on. All the names have been, tweaked, and so you cannot identify it as a local or as a Ghanaian product. So you see, and you can tell why all this, because of our miserable political landscape. One must be either NDC or NPP. I mean, how can that be? See, so we have to use all these strategies to get our way through. Now, so the purpose to blend storytelling with advocacy, to showcase the power of SCA in shaping policy and program planning decisions, to serve as an educational resource, for graduate students, for students, and for professionals in SCA, and then to pioneer the transformation of future EA reports into stories that attract wider readership and deliver benefits beyond the technical audiences, to sensitize policymakers and the public to SCA's potential to drive environmental sustainability and inspire policy action, as illustrated through this reimagining of the galamsey via SCA, and then to ultimately reposition Hanang, not Ghana, among global leaders in best practice impact assessment. Now, the responsibilities, coming to the end, the responsibilities towards national renewal, according to this book, that we abandon the largely inconsequential slogans like "Stop Galamsey Now." See, It doesn't mean anything. Going around Alutayan, stop galamsey now. Nobody can stop galamsey now. It can't happen that way. Can't happen that way. See, and then we begin exerting pressure from an informed stance, which is anchored in a clearly defined institutional responsibilities, as defined in this book. So responsibilities for sector ministries, for government institutions, for the central bank, a national regional house of chiefs, see, the district assemblies, and political parties. And one interesting thing is, if you're a political party, if you are a parliamentarian, and there is galamsey in your area, and after implementation of this, the recommendation here, the proposal is that you are nicknamed galamsey MP. And for chiefs, and for chiefs, we're calling for the National House of Chiefs to make their rules. You see, and these are some of the pressures that we can put to the various stakeholders. Okay, you make rules. So if there's a chief with galamsey in his area, then you're on the way out, as the poem said. If you're a district chief executive, and the position of district chief executive should no longer be an appointment position, should be elected. And so you are accountable to the people. If there is galamsey in your district, there's no justification for you to remain there. We must hold everybody accountable. There is even the responsibility for religious bodies, and the security institutions, and civil society organizations. All these are defined in there. So let me end by saying that God has been very gracious to us, and God has been good to Ghana, or Hanang. If you think that our galamsey prayers are not heard, I'm here to announce that you are wrong. You are wrong. The situation could have been worse. The fact that the price of gold has been held below $5,000 an ounce, we have to thank God. Otherwise, the 3 remaining regions without a footprint of galamsey would all, and our voter, the lower stretch, would be in trouble. But this book on galamsey is coming out as the basis for informed action and as a proof of God's goodness. And that is why we took this risk. Thank you.
You took a risk, and at the end of the day, we all know that, no pain, no gain. And that is exactly what you've done. So we are going to support you, and hopefully, this seminal, publication will be the beginning of several of those publications in the future. So on that note, good afternoon, everyone. It's both an honor and a personal privilege to review The Last Dig, How Benji Changed the Galamsey Story. The authors have shared already, and I have known each other since our secondary school days or high school days. Throughout his distinguished career as an environmental scientist and impact assessment practitioner, as you just heard, he has consistently combined scientific rigor with a deep commitment to public service, and that is what is being reflected here. This book is the culmination of decades of professional experience, research, advocacy, and thoughtful reflection. So let me begin with an overall assessment of the book. This is an outstanding and timely contribution to Ghana's national conversation on illegal mining. It is not simply a novel. It is not merely a policy document, nor is it only an educational text. Rather, it is a rare integration of all three. The book succeeds because it tells an engaging human story while simultaneously educating the reader about one of the most complex environmental, economic, and governance challenges facing our nation. And when we talk about Henan, by the way, there is a town in China called Henan. So let's see what they will tell us. The fictional character Benji serves as the vehicle through which the author explores very real issues. Through Benji's journey, we encounter communities devastated by polluted rivers, destroyed farmlands, abandoned classrooms, weakened institutions, political interference, poverty, youth unemployment, and organized criminal networks, society at large. Yet, the story refuses to settle for despair. Instead, it steadily moves toward hope through evidence-based reform. That is not easy to do because, as we just heard from the author, he could just have given us the negative part of galamsey. But he starts from that point and he positions us to look at the future with hope. One of the book's greatest strengths is its insistence that galamsey cannot be understood as simply a law enforcement problem. The author demonstrates convincingly that illegal mining is a systems problem. Poverty drives participation, weak institutions enable it, political interference protects it, foreign criminal networks exploit it, regulatory fragmentation perpetuates it. Consequently, sustainable solutions must also be systemic. The systemic perspective represents one of this book's most significant intellectual contribution. Another major strength is the innovative use of storytelling to communicate technical environmental concepts. As a scientist, I can tell you that's not easy to do. It takes a lot of intellectual, power to be able to do that. And I think you've done it very well. Muyi. Most books on the strategic environmental assessment, environmental governance, or impact assessment are written primarily for the specialists. They rarely reach ordinary citizens, students, traditional leaders, or policy makers outside the environmental profession. This book changes that. It's very clear when you read it that this is a seminal book. And now I understand why your colleagues warned you about it, because you are breaking ground. Complex policy concepts become understandable because they are experienced through the lives of believable characters. It's not easy to create a character from scratch. And as he was saying, he could have gone the technical way, but who would care about it? Who would even understand it? So he had to create this character. And I think that definitely is something that you should also be very proud of. Readers learn while they are emotionally engaged, and that is a hallmark of public education. I was particularly impressed by the author's distinction between different forms of galamsey as he shared with us. Galamsey is not monolithic. There are different types of it. And when you read the book, which I encourage you to do, you'll be able to get a better understanding of galamsey. Rather than treating every participant as a criminal, he differentiates between organized, highly destructive illegal mining and livelihood-driven artisanal mining. I remember when I was a kid, my mom used to say, I'm going to the goldsmith. We lived at Dobiashi and she had one at Kandishi. This was a goldsmith, and that's why she got her jewelry. I don't think it was through galamsey. Those people still need to be supported. We have our goldsmiths, and we should support them. The distinction allows him to advocate strong enforcement against environmental crime while simultaneously proposing legitimate economic alternatives for vulnerable communities. This balanced approach gives the book credibility. The proposed model of regulated mining cooperatives, strengthened district governance, coordinated institutions, environmental accountability, and local financing offers a constructive framework that deserves serious consideration by policymakers. Equally, noteworthy is the author's optimism. I mentioned that he started from a low point, but he's building us up. Despite describing environmental devastation in vivid detail, this is fundamentally a hopeful book. Benji becomes more than the protagonist. He becomes a symbol of ethical leadership. His persistence reminds us that meaningful national transformation is possible when courage is combined with competence, integrity, and collaboration. From a literary perspective, the writing is accessible and engaging. The chapters are well-paced, the dialogue is natural, and the narrative maintains momentum while introducing substantial policy content. The poetry, for those of us who came earlier that we heard, the poetry that opens many chapters adds emotional depth and reinforces the environmental themes without distracting from the whole story. And I asked that Moyi, who wrote those poems? They were his creations. He can write a book of poems already, just from this work. Okay? You deserve a big clap for that, round of applause for that. So, as a reviewer, I believe that no serious review would be complete without offering constructive observations. At times, the policy discussions become quite detailed, occasionally slowing the pace of the narrative. Readers seeking a purely fictional novel may find these sections more technical than expected, but here comes the good news. I believe this reflects the author's purpose. He is not merely entertaining us, he's educating us and inviting us into a national problem-solving stance. That's what he's doing. In that respect, the book achieves exactly what it sets out to accomplish. Perhaps the most remarkable achievement of the last decade is that it transforms environmental science into public conversation. It's not easy to do that. Take a technical field and transform it into something that everyone can talk or discuss about. Okay. It invites policymakers to think differently. It challenges traditional authorities to exercise responsible stewardship. It encourages young people to become environmental champions. And I'm so pleased to see a number of young students sitting in this room today. They are our future. They have to be part of this conversation. So for those of you here who are students, just remember that this is a challenge for you. And if I say a student, I don't mean only those who are in K through 12 or in the university. We are all students of life. That's the bottom line. This book offers educators a valuable teaching resource. It provides development partners with a practical framework for integrating environmental sustainability, governance reform, and community development. And few books speak effectively to all of these at the same time. Okay, that's what makes this book distinctive. And just to let you know, after I went through the manuscript, I did my own research to find out if there are any books even similar to this particular book. and I couldn't find one. Just to let you know. So in closing, this is a book that deserves to be read widely, not only by environmental professionals, but also by government officials, parliamentarians, traditional chiefs, district assembly members, educators, university students, civil society organizations, mining companies, and every Ghanaian who cares about the future of our land and water. The title, The Last Dig, expresses more than an aspiration and illegal mining. It is ultimately a call for a national renewal, a vision in which Ghana's mineral wealth is not managed through exploitation and environmental destruction, but through stewardship, accountability, and shared prosperity. And I would make a point here. When we talk about Africa and our assets, more often than not, we talk about our minerals, we talk about our nice climate, and we talk about other natural resources. But as we sit in this room, I would propose, I'll make this assumption, but something that I believe in. For this continent of Africa, our most important asset is our human capital. What is here? That is our most important asset. Why do I say that? If we have all these mineral resources, but we can't use this for our benefit, is it an asset? No. And that then puts in place the fact that we have a Ghanaian who has gone out of his way to put this document together. He is not only warning us or cautioning us about how to use our natural resources, but he's also encouraging us to use our most important asset, which is our human capital, to make sure that we leave this place a better place than we came to meet it when we were born. I have no hesitation in recommending The Last Dig, How Benji Changed the Galamsey Story, as one of the most important Ghanaian publications on environmental governance and sustainable mining in recent years. I congratulate my friend and colleague, Dr. Yamoyase, for producing a work of exceptional relevance and lasting value. So, as a microbiologist, I understand the long-term consequences of environmental degradation. As a traditional ruler, and you heard traditional rulers are part of the solution because they are part of the problem. I understand that our land is more than an economic asset. It is our heritage, it is our identity, and our covenant with future generations. This book reminds us that protecting our environment is not only a sound policy, but a moral responsibility. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As I just shared, in my review, I truly and deeply believe that this book that we have here is a seminal book that can potentially change the trajectory of our nation if each and every one of us here will take time to read it. It's not too big, 169 pages, you can read it. So on behalf of the MC and our guest, author, and everyone here, do I say I pronounce this book launched? That's it. Okay, so this book is launched and available for everyone. Thank you very much.
If you think the economy is more important than the environment, try holding your breath while counting your money. Let's try it and see. So everybody here works in an environment. So if you're a lawyer, you work in an environment. If you're a professor, in an environment. A medical doctor, everybody here work in an environment, and that is very crucial. I believe that those of us who are religious, for that matter, Christians, have come across that in the Bible. Genesis 2:15. God, what did God say? He said what? take care of the land. After you have what? Used it. We have been using it for centuries. Ladies and gentlemen, we have failed to take care of it. So if somebody does something like this concerning the environment, you have no idea what it means. And I am so excited, and I salute you, sir, for this work done. So I have a very simple task. On the program, I saw 30 minutes. I said, why 30 minutes? If I can just call those people to give me clear all this from the table, my work is done. Oh, do you agree? Yeah. The work is done. Why 30 minutes? We will be able to do it in 10 minutes or even 5 minutes.
Center for Environment and Health Research and Training, our company, received an award, the Institutional Award, at the International Association for Impact Assessment Conference in Quebec City. And this was in recognition of the professional training that we are given to young graduates. And as at the time, we had trained a little over 60 young graduates. And this was recognized. And so we were given that award. And this is what we want to expand, we want to scale up and make it more open and involve all the universities that are offering environmental courses.
We're grateful for how far MUI has come, and we've all been beneficiaries of SET, and some of us were part of SET at a time where I'm sure we probably received the best of training because we were not as many as those who probably are with MUI now, and I think that we have we had some good training. And if you've ever worked with MUI, you would know that you would have to try to be a perfectionist, right? You would go over the work over and over again. And for those of us who were young at the time, because these days we are not young, I'm 44 and growing. But when I was younger and I needed some money, there were times it could get a bit frustrating. You know, the work will be, moved forward so you can get your money. You will come the next morning and he's reading what he has already reviewed already. It could get so frustrating. But of course, the idea was to get us to do things well and to do things to a level where anybody from anywhere could look at the work and know this is standard work. So that is what we got working with MUI, being able to do things regardless of where we were. We had opportunities to do projects in Sierra Leone, and wherever we were, we did jobs in such a manner that they were acceptable. And I can always say that having gone through that training and having left him after 8 years of working with him, there were those who worked much longer with him. Some did 10 years, some did 6 years. Averagely, people did about 5 years. And everybody who went through his hands knew he had been prepared for life after MUI. So you can talk about those who ended up at UNDP. Iribi has been working with UNDP for the past 10 to 11 years. I can see Ego here, who left for Ego Boame, refugees, from saying, UN refugees for no. So then she left them and joined UNICEF. There are a number of those who ended up on World Bank funded projects as environmental and social safeguard specialists who have done very good work. So for me, going through MUI's hands, you can always be assured of high quality. You cannot be substandard. You cannot be ordinary. You cannot just produce anything. And of course, having his name on your CV too helps. So these days, I don't mind moving from one place to another. So when I left MUI, I became the first full-time environmental and social manager for CalBank. And when I was leaving CalBank with MUI's name in my CV and always giving me recommendation, going to Ministry of Finance, I knew that job was mine, because even though I always said that there were people who were more experienced than me in the field of environmental and social, none of them really had a financial experience. So having moved from MUI and having gone to CalBank, I knew the Ministry of Finance job was mine. And I knew MUI would write a nice recommendation for me. Reference, they say, right? So I went there. And then we helped set up Development Bank Ghana. And then eventually the World Bank opportunity came, and we used the name again, and we used all the trainings we received, and we got the bank job. We thought we were going to relax at the bank, but I think that having done 4 years, it's time to move on, and Moi's name would always be in my CV. And I'm just talking about the fact that when you go through some good training, your experience is built to a level where you can never pay for. And I think that I have the kind of confidence that I have because 8 years working with Moi exposed me to a lot of things. The one project I did in Sierra Leone, when I'm talking with development partners, I'm telling them I've worked in West Africa. West Africa, I'm not just say Ghana, 98% Sierra Leone. But these things help. It gives you confidence. And when you finally get the interview opportunity, because you know your stuff, you have done the practical things, you can always make up for some of the nice things you said in your CV or in your letter. So thank you so much, Moi. Thank you.
A long 1 minute.
A long 1 minute. Thank you.
Right.
That it will be a blessing, much as it blesses the author and his company, it also becomes a blessing to you.
Are we done? Thank you.
It delves into the actual complexity of galamsey, what the phenomenon is. Okay, so that it provides understanding of the problem, or the reality, the complex nature of the problem of galamsey, so that you can advance recommendations for solution. For now, what we're doing is like beating about the bush. We do not understand it. We're not understanding it. And this is what the book seeks to help us understand the complex nature of galamsey. Okay, so for instance, it distinguishes between two types of galamsey. You know, the criminal one perpetrated by foreigners capturing our forest reserves, our water bodies, which the book recommends a complete crackdown to stop it. Okay, and distinguishes that from the, if you like, poverty-driven community galamsey. You know, people are unemployed and they have no means of livelihood, and this appears to be their only means of livelihood. So we have to transform it in a way that makes it attractive for them to work legally, okay, complying with all the relevant requirements, but with national support, so that we cut off the foreign financial flow, which leads to all the damage that we experience currently. So that is it. That is it.
How simple or complex is that method going to be? Because these are sophisticated networks of people that even might not have stepped their feet into Ghana before. They're just fueling it with their money. What tailored measure do you think government should employ in cutting off?
See, as I indicated, we all have responsibilities in it. It's not only government. Okay, if you take the If you take the role of the chiefs, it's so important in galamsey. If you take the role of district assemblies, it's so important. The police, so important. And the recommendation in the book is that if, for instance, you're a chief and there is galamsey in your land, then you must be called to book. You must either be destooled. We are calling on the National House of Chiefs to take action in that regard. If you are district chief executive, and we are recommending the election of district chief executive so that they become accountable to the people, not necessarily to the government. See? And if you are a district chief executive elected and there is galamsey in your area, you are answerable for that. And we either get rid of you. If you're a police commander and there is galamsey in your area, you are answerable for it because you don't have to allow illegality to continue in your areas of operation. So these are some of the recommendations. And we are also advocating, the book is advocating for formation of district environmental task force. That will not only sit down and then go and attack people in the field. Even if you're a foreigner and you come into our community, we must know what you are doing in the community. Your presence there must be explained. Otherwise, we search and arrest right from there before you even have time to go into the forest. Galamsey is so serious that measures to be taken must be seriously thought of and then applied.
Should we expect a book on Accra flood? Because you've been one of the people who have spoken about how we can fight floods, and considering what happened yesterday, we can't see the headway around it.
Have you heard of GARID?
Yeah.
The Greater Accra
Yeah.
Resilience and Integrated Development Project. GARID was conceived mainly to tackle floods. So the question we have to ask those concerned is, what has happened with GARID and with all the monies sunk into those projects and in the studies? Why are we still having floods of such magnitude? People must be answerable for that. You see? So we can have a book written, but the book will be based on the research, the reports that have been prepared, which must be implemented, okay, to help us address the problem. So we must understand this and then direct questions to the appropriate places. And again, it comes to the question of the role of the district assemblies. Because if the assemblies were really performing, they must answer. They must work towards avoiding flooding in their areas. See? But we have all agreed that the district assemblies are non-performing. And so we have all these environmental challenges. You see that the drains are choked with rubbish, garbage. Who is responsible for waste management? The assemblies. But who do they account to? Who demands accountability from them? Nobody. See, so that's our problem. We are indisciplined as a people, and then we don't have the structures to also control and enforce the laws.